Welcome back to Tied Up with the Morgans. It's a cold one today. We've been getting a lot of snow. We've been having a lot of fun playing in the snow. The kids, I think they have been outside more than they've been inside. Not quite, but we've been putting in a lot of hours outside, and it's been a lot of fun. But right off the bat, I wanted to just thank all of those who watched the last video. We had 25,000 views, which is huge for our channel. Hundreds of comments, mostly all good. A lot of people upset that I left "to be" out of the title, and it's a YouTube title. It's not a thesis, right? So I'm not going to change the titles. I'm going to put what I think will get people to click on the video and watch it. And I was hoping more people would talk about the video rather than the title, but they just get stuck up on that and they feel the need to teach the younger generation. So we're not going to change that. I might even make a worse title for this video. We'll see. But I do appreciate the kind comments. You notice I keep looking over here. There's a few deer just walking through the yard right now, and they're fun to watch in this snow. It's easy to spot them. But I appreciate those who watched. Today's video is one it was the same thing with the bear video. The bear video I was like a month behind. This video is similar, but like 3 months behind. I prepared this video in like October, so it's been a while. And it was one I thought was very relevant because after I prepared everything, I started seeing it in the news. The Farm and Dairy newspaper, I saw it in there, and it was about ticks. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is I think what sparked that was in the deer video. I did a video on how we have too many deer. And in the video, the kids were playing in some Japanese stilt grass. They were rolling around in it, burying themselves in it. And some people asked, like, are we worried about ticks? And I get that a lot. And a lot of people ask that. And that made me want to dive into ticks more because it's a very popular topic these days. It's in the news. Everyone's worried about ticks with good reason. And I wanted to make this video because what I've seen, and it kind of goes whenever I talk about doing different native plantings, right? Different, like replacing lawn with native species. Sometimes people are concerned about that, bringing in more ticks. And without getting off topic and going down that path, I just want to first say there are real concerns with ticks, okay? And people see the things I do or my kids playing in leaves or grass or whatever, and they're worried with good reason. But I don't think these things should keep us out of nature. And so today we're going to talk all things ticks. Originally, this was going to be like a 45-minute video, and I have tried to condense it as best as I can. I did a lot of research. It was like a few weeks of research on this, and I'm excited for it. So I've shortened it because I think most people don't want to sit down and watch a 45-minute video on ticks. And the worst part is, with this snow, I have no good footage of ticks. I have a few I took over the last couple months, but when I first had the idea, I was wanting to get the ticks. I'd go out and I'm like, come on, I need some. And I wasn't finding ticks. So I don't have a lot of footage of ticks because it would be better to play that while I'm talking. So you're going to have to deal with me for the majority of it. And let's dive into it. So today, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what are ticks, how Lyme disease actually spreads, the role of deer, mice, and predators, and how risky Lyme disease really is, and most importantly, how to protect yourself without avoiding nature altogether. So ticks are tiny arachnids. They're like mites or spiders. They survive by feeding on blood. They've been around a really long time. I read a lot of different things about this. I'm always a little skeptical of the dates, kind of when they get like really old. I just wonder, it's the same thing when I hear people tell me about dinosaurs. And getting off topic, but this is a little thing that always bothers me. People, you go to these museums, the kids love it, we go, and they know every single thing about this dinosaur. It ran 36 miles per hour. It did this, it ate that, it was this big, weighed this much, ate this much food a day, just knows everything. And I'm just like, just from the bones, you can tell all that. I don't know. I'm not the expert. I never will be. Anyways, they say that they found amber that had ticks preserved in it that were hundreds of millions of years old. So ticks have been around a long time. And in the world, there are over 800 species of ticks. And so today, we're going to be talking about the black-legged tick, commonly known as the deer tick, which is the one we fear the most because it's the one that is most likely to be spreading Lyme's disease. And so that's what we'll be focusing on today, is the deer tick. They do not jump or fly like a lot of insects. They do a thing called questing, which is, and you probably already know this, I think a lot of people do, and this is how they latch onto you. They're not flying on you or jumping. They'll climb a plant and they just stick their legs out and they wait to latch onto you. Their legs are almost like a Velcro, right? They just stick right to you. So you brush past, you're walking through brush, you're in, leaves, whatever, right? You're walking through it and you walk by, a deer walks by, whatever, and they just latch right onto you and they're with you for the long ride until you find them. You can never really grasp the size of a hill in video, but this has been our recent sled run. We start up there, past that leaning dogwood tree. Me, Ty, and Thea all ride together, and we come through here all the way down. And this part gets real steep. And then it gets really fun because then it kind of goes up that little hill, and I have a pile of compost, and we kind of go off of that jump. So it's a lot of fun. I'm only telling you that because we're walking right past it. So I wanted to talk about where you are likely to find ticks. Well, they like a shady forest. Not a whole lot of shade this time of year, but you will find them in like a shady, moist forest, kind of through here. You'll find them in leaf litter, which again, not seeing a lot of leaves, but under this snow, there are a lot of leaves. And you're going to find them at brushy edges, like right along here. This is all invasive privet right here. So you're going to find them around here and tall grasses, which again, right here. This was a native grass that I allowed to grow up and go to seed. But anyways, yeah, you'll find, it's funny showing you this right now when there's, 6 inches of snow, but you will find them in places like this. So we know ticks have been around a long time, whereas Lyme disease itself wasn't discovered until more recently. In the 70s in Lyme, Connecticut, spelled just like Lyme disease, there was a cluster of arthritis and rash patients. And upon studying this further, a scientist named Willy Bergdorfer made the connection. He discovered that this was coming from a spiral-shaped bacterium called Borrelia, that sounds better, Borrelia burgdorferi. And it's transmitted by deer ticks. And it seemed like a new discovery. We later found out, I wasn't a part of it, but they found out later that this actually has been around for a very long time. To understand Lyme disease, we need to understand the life cycle of a tick. Deer ticks have a 2-year life cycle with 3 feeding stages: larva, nymph, and adult. Ticks hatch in summer as larvae, tiny, 6-legged, about the size of a grain of sand. Larvae are born Lyme-free. Their first blood meal usually comes from small animals like mice or birds. If that host is infected, the larval tick can pick up the Lyme bacterium. After feeding, the larva drops off and molts into a nymph the following spring. Nymphs are the most dangerous stage for humans. They're about the size of a poppy seed, easy to miss, and responsible for most human Lyme infections. If infected as larvae, nymphs can now transmit Lyme to people, pets, or other animals. Later in the year, nymphs molt into adult ticks. Adults typically feed on large mammals, especially deer. Deer do not get Lyme disease. Deer do not infect ticks, but deer provide the massive blood meals adult ticks need to reproduce. And this kind of goes into that video I did where we talked about the overpopulation of deer. There are that many more large blood meals for the ticks because of the overpopulation of deer. Adult females drop off, lay thousands of eggs, and the cycle begins again with larvae born Lyme-free. There are two animals that sit at the center of Lyme disease: mice and deer. I don't have any videos of mice, but I have a lot of video of deer. So let's look at some deer while we talk more about their role in this whole thing. The first time I killed a deer when I was 12 years old, I remember getting up to it and seeing just a giant thing on it. And it was a tick, and I couldn't believe it. Never seen anything like it. It was a long time ago, so I didn't know much about ticks then. But I then learned there are ticks all over this thing. And I later realized that deer are tick amplifiers. A single deer can carry hundreds of ticks, allowing adult females to reproduce successfully. Mice, especially white-footed mice, are infection reservoirs. When larval ticks feed on mice, a high percentage become infected with Lyme. Later, those infected ticks become nymphs, and that's how Lyme reaches people. Lyme disease is the most common tick-borne illness in the United States. The early symptoms, which this is where it's so important because early detection is everything. But the early symptoms resemble flu-like symptoms. So fever, headaches, fatigue. You may even have the bullseye rash, which is, if you don't know what that is, you have a tick bite and you get a little bullseye around it. So if you have any of those, you might want to look into this a little more because, like I said, early detection is everything. As a kid, I always heard about Lyme disease. You know, you're not really afraid of much, but I never knew just how serious it could be really until maybe like 8 years, not even that long ago. Someone really close to me got it. And, a good friend of mine, and he is outside all the time, and he got it. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. But then I found out how severe it really is. So that's why that early detection is so important, because it can still be treated with antibiotics. So there are a number of symptoms. I wrote this down, and a lot of these matched his symptoms from what I remember him going through. But anyways, those symptoms from joint pain and arthritis, neurological symptoms, memory and nerve issues. And I distinctly remember him, how foggy his mind was. Couldn't remember anything. And it battled that for a long time, like real cloudy mind. And then also heart rhythm disturbances. And so it is serious. As a kid, I never knew how serious Lyme disease was, or even as an adult, because that was just a few years ago where I was like, what? I get it. Because I always heard people, they knew what I did. They knew how I was in the woods all the time, in the brush. I would want to go and find things or whatever. And so many people would kind of think that's crazy and have like a fear of it or think I'm dumb. And I'm like, you just look for the ticks and you get them off. It's that simple. It's really not. So I now have a better understanding of it and realize how serious it really is. Well, I ran out of daylight, and also these boys behind me kindly reminded me I still had chores left to do. So I figured it'd be a change of scenery, and we'll come in here and wrap up the video. So next up, I want to talk more about prevention, because that really is everything. We talked about how important early detection is, but I would say even more important than that is prevention. And it works best as layers. So first, you have the clothing. A lot of people like to do the long pants. They like to roll the socks up over the pants. They'll use gaiters, I think is the right word, right? Something that kind of goes over your, where your pant leg meets your shoe around there, right? Your ankle area. It covers that up. People, like I said, tuck your pants into your socks. Those are things people do. And I keep saying people do because I'm not the best example of any of these things. There's some areas I'm more focused in, but I'm just kind of in this stuff all the time. I'm not as good about it as I should be. The second thing, repellents. People use DEET or like different things that they'll get to repel the ticks. And one of those is permethrin. People will get their clothes treated with it, or they'll just get permethrin treated clothes. and that kills ticks on contact. I don't use that, but there are a lot of people I know who swear by that. It's always fun watching these guys here just kind of go crazy. The little ones always get pushed out, like Mikey here. He's got to resort to the hay. But anyways, permethrin and repellents people use. I would say the most important thing, in my opinion, because you can do a lot of those things, I don't think anything is 100%. I don't think any prevention, any type of clothing, anything is going to work perfectly. I think the most important thing you should be doing are tick checks. After you get in, check everywhere. You want to check all over, get someone to help for the spots you can't see. It's very important. And they're sometimes so tiny that it's just not that the big one we're used to seeing on like a deer or something, right? That's real easy to spot. So that tick check afterward is very important. And I would say proper removal. Once you do find a tick, you want to remove it properly. We have like a whole tick set that we use because we get a lot of ticks every year. I mean, a lot. Between me and the kids alone, there's always ticks on us. So Kate has become an expert at removing ticks. Get the right tweezers, straight pull, steady pressure, it comes right out. You don't want to leave part of it in there. And then also cleaning the area afterwards. All right, Donnie, let's tell them about control, okay? Tick control. I would say the most overlooked, man, he's really interested in this topic. He thinks I'm going to give him treats right now. And then there's Luna. She's waiting for her treat. She's just the best girl ever. But I would say the most overlooked method of control is fire, prescribed fire. If you're burning your land annually, biannually, or just, if you have like a set schedule of when you're burning, ticks do not like a hot, dry environment. And we know historically there were a lot more fires. Whether that was from Native Americans burning land or, maybe there was a lightning strike and the whole East Coast burned. Ticks did not do well in those environments. So as we've suppressed fire, we have had more ticks. Ticks become denser in more shady, wet areas, as we talked about earlier. And research shows that prescribed burning does reduce tick numbers. Now it's time to give this girl a treat before we continue. So fire, it does kill the ticks directly, but I would say even more important than that is you're cleaning out that leaf litter that can accumulate. This is always my favorite. If I try to do anything on this side of the barn, they are in my face. This is the only time I can get near them. Any other time, they don't want me near them. But when I'm over here, they are expecting something. So we know fire's not really appropriate everywhere, but it can restore balance ecologically and biologically. One last thing I wanted to talk about. I think a lot of times we kind of romanticize these things. Things get exaggerated as like, that's the fix to it. You don't want ticks? Get chickens. You'll never have a tick again. I hear that all the time. And, I've heard a lot of people say that. And I'm sure that they make a difference, but they don't solve the problem completely. Just like people like to take, there was a study. I hear this a lot. I've seen some viral videos online. Like there was a cool video of this guy. He knew a lot. He was holding a possum. And he was talking all about it. And in there, he cited this study that everyone talks about. A possum eats thousands of ticks a year. It's like 5,000 ticks in a year. And everyone's like, that's amazing. And so everyone's like, okay, so the fix is chickens and possums. And it's just not. Like I said, they could help. Chickens could help. I'm sure maybe they make a difference in your yard. And I think, too, when I hear that, I think, maybe, not always, but a lot of the time it might just be like a short mowed yard, and if there's a tick, a chicken's going to eat it. But you're not really in environments where you're going to have lots of ticks anyways, right? Maybe it's a dry, sunny yard. You won't have lots of ticks there anyways. But the possum one I wanted to talk about because I hear that all the time. And what it was a study where they took a possum in a lab setting. It was not in the wild, and they put like 1,000 or 5,000 ticks on this thing, and he groomed most of them off. And from that, they said that a possum will eat this many in a year. And that was a lab setting. It was not from the wild. I guess my thought is like, is a possum getting that many on itself? It's not. It will groom them off, but it's just not the tick magnet like people want it to be or try to make it out to be. So I think it's like a lot of things. We hear something and that's the fix. But really, I think that the real fix is just like real healthy ecosystem, biodiversity, and that's probably the fix. But it will never go away completely. It will always be there, and we learn how to manage it. We learn what works. Anyways, I think that's it for this video. I didn't want it to be too long, and it ended up being too long. The original notes and plan I had was like double this at least. I really shortened it. My delivery needs cleaned up. I'm going to have people tell me that in the comments. That's all right. It does. But I enjoyed this topic, and I hope you did too. And I guess what I want everyone to learn from this is I just hear so often about how dangerous ticks are, or I don't want to do that because of ticks, or why are your kids jumping in that pile of leaves? So these are things I hear. People feel the need, and it's not that they're being nosy. They care, right? They're worried about it. But I'm not going to let ticks keep me away from doing the things I love. I'm not going to let them keep me indoors. I like to be outside. My family likes to be outside. So I learn how to manage the real risks, because these are real risks. We have to learn how to manage them. Just like, car accidents are a real thing. So what do I do to not get in a car accident? Well, I pay attention. I wear a seatbelt, and I take those steps to prevent being in an accident. Just like the steps we talked about today on how to prevent getting Lyme disease. And for those that I love right here in those pictures, my family, right? We take those steps with our kids. So they're real risks, and it should not keep us from doing the things that we love. So I hope that's what you took from this video. Maybe you learned a little more about ticks, but maybe you learn more how to manage and live among them. We don't like them, but they're there. And we need to learn how to live with that. Anyways, thanks for watching. So while we are on the topic of animals and ticks and Lyme disease, I figured it was appropriate to talk about these animals right here. And do they get Lyme disease? Not 100% no, but it's very, very uncommon that goats get it. Whereas in people and dogs, we can all get infected with Lyme disease. Goats are far less likely to, and really their immune systems just handle it far better than ours. It just shows itself in a different way, I guess you could say. Whereas, in people or dogs, we might start to see it in our joints or in our mind. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. These guys are far better at handling it, which helps, because I was worried about that when we first got them. I thought, what is that, like a tick collar? What do goats do? What do you do with them? And then we learned that they're really not susceptible to Lyme disease like we are. And for this beautiful girl, what do we do for her? Well, Luna takes NexGard Plus once a month, which helps, and she also gets Lyme boosters, which help. But really, nothing is perfect. And what we do, we have a really good vet that we get her to often, and not so often, a couple times a year, I should say. She's always tested, and we monitor her closely, I would say, is the best thing. If she's acting different, she's really easy to read. She's pretty much always the same. The only issue we've ever really had with her was when she broke a nail one time. We got her to the vet, got everything taken care of, but there's warning signs, right? So we watch her closely. With this amount of fur, though, the vet said it themselves when we first got her, we're never going to be able to find every tick on her. So we want to just prevent that from happening. So that's where the NexGard Plus and Lyme boosters help, and just monitor her. And, you know, if we ever find them, we've never found any on her. She's, I think what also helps, she's not really in the brush. Like the goats, this area is, you can't tell now, but they really keep a lot of that brush down, and I think that helps.